Dave Rennie has named his All Black squad, folks, for the upcoming Nations Championship. There's a handful of uncapped players. A few big guns have missed out. We've got a new captain. We'll go through the squad. What are the expectations for the three upcoming matches against France, Italy, and Ireland? And you guys can let us know your thoughts on who you're happy with there. Maybe who you think been a bit hard done by. And what you reckon the expectations are for these three home tests. Ardie Savea is captain. I think that's a pretty obvious choice. He has been leader of the All Blacks before. Scott Barrett, the incumbent All Blacks captain, is currently out with a long-term injury. Who else could you have gone with? Potentially a Cody Taylor, but Ardie's likely going to play 80 minutes of whatever game he plays. Having a loose forward there means he's generally close to the action, close to the referee. It seems like a bit of a no-brainer. He was with Dave over in Japan, so there's... Yeah, I don't think there's any really big... You want your captain to be a first name off the team sheet, right? So Ardie is going to be there. I don't think there's any big surprises there. I think that's a big thumbs up for Dave and the team's selection. I know there's been a little bit of off the field. Did he get razor sacked, or, did he abandon Moana Pacifica? But I think that's all. There's a fair bit of hot air amongst that. And as a guy who's going to inspire the lads, and as I said, be a first choice, Ardie is certainly one of your guys. The uncapped guys, Xavier Numia, loosehead prop, had a cracking season in that Hurricanes campaign to the title. Perhaps benefits a little bit from the fact that Tamaiti Williams is out with a long-term injury, but was going to be in with a shout either way. Ofa Tu'ungafasi is one of the props who's missed out, but honestly, with the way he's been scrummaging for the Blues, I don't think he was really in that much of kind of All Blacks form, let alone Super Rugby form. Speaking of the Blues, I am absolutely chuffed for Anton Segner. I thought it was going to be a potentially uphill battle for him, just because of the competition we have in the All Blacks back row. But man, they've gone with the form man. He's like the coaches just said in their initial interviews that they think he's been the form player of the Blues. You look at his stats, man. He's been tackling the house down. He's been winning turnovers. He's been winning line-out ball. He's been a proper machine. His inclusion probably means the likes of a Duplessis Karifi misses out. The fact that the captain, Ardie Savea, is probably going to play 7 as well, maybe doesn't help Karifi's chances. He is certainly, I think, the biggest omission, especially seeing as the season that the Hurricanes have had. But Segner's had a hell of a year, so I'm chuffed for him. I am very disappointed for Karifi, but Segner is maybe a little bit more versatile in that he plays more positions in the back row than Karifi does. Finninganofo, that's also, man, that caught me by surprise. Honestly, with the Newcastle signing, him leaving New Zealand Rugby, I thought he was no chance. All the off-field rumours about his contract maybe being torn up, I assumed it was partly his agent trying to get New Zealand Rugby to buy him out. They did ask Dave Rennie that question, and he just said it's basically for Fehi and Newcastle to sort out. So if we read into that, what he's saying on face value, it means New Zealand Rugby's not buying him out. But he's either got to somehow get out of his contract. Maybe there's an out clause. If he gets named for the All Blacks, he doesn't have to fulfill his obligations. But as Dave said, ultimately, he is currently still contracted to New Zealand Rugby. So he's eligible for selection. And given the form he's in, broke the try-scoring record for tries in a Super Rugby season. He's a hard man to deny. Caleb Tangitau being injured also meant that a guy who, in all likelihood, would have been selected has a bit less competition with Fehi. So Fehi, man, he's had a hell of a year. So yeah, he gets selected despite the contract things. And Josh Morby, who also broke and equaled that try-scoring record with Fehi Finninganofo, he gets selected as a 27-year-old, which for All Black selections is kind of unusual. We usually cap the outside backs a bit younger than that. But he's had an impeccable season since he returned from France. He's clearly loving life back home. Plays fullback, plays wing. Yeah, I think there's some exciting outside backs and some uncapped players named here. Also, Jamie Hanna is in there as injury cover. He's had a cracking season for the Crusaders, the young lock. So I'm not sure if he'll get any game time, but him being in the mix is certainly a bit of good news for building the depth in New Zealand Rugby. Who are the other kind of main talking points? There's a few in terms of like Kyle Preston. He's the other halfback alongside Cam Roigard and Cortez Ratima, so he kind of jumps over some of the more established guys, the likes of a Noah Hotham and maybe a Finlay Christie. So they must like to look at him. I remember he only got one cap under Razor when we had that big halfback crisis earlier in the year. The three first fives is to be expected: Bodie Barrett, Damien McKenzie, and Ruben Love. Those are your 3 guys, but who gets the nod at 10? I said it before the final that I would like to see Ruben get the keys for a while, but surely he's undeniable now. Anton Leonard-Brown makes it with the season he had over in Japan, and he's ahead of a Timothy Tavatavanawai, which is a big call because Tavatavanawai, like there's bugger all Highlanders in the squad. I think it's just a Groot. Tavatavanawai was busting tackles, winning turnovers all season. Very different player from ALB, but ALB makes it in there. And Rico, one of the guys who was also overseas, Rico doesn't make it in, despite coming into some really good end-of-season form with Leinster, winning a URC title. He doesn't make it, but they did say, potentially with the upcoming tour of South Africa, a larger squad going, all those games against the Stormers and the Lions and the Bulls and whatnot to come, they'll need more players, and Rico, with his versatility, will certainly be in with a good shout. Samapeni Finau hasn't made it in the loose forwards, but I think Duplessis Karefi is probably, if you're looking at one guy who's the most unlucky, maybe him in the forwards and Tavatavanawai in the backs. Other guys injured, like I mentioned, Scott Barrett, Fabian Holland, so a couple of our premier locks are unavailable. Lester Fainganuku also missed out. He was officially named as one of the guys, not selected due to injury. With that injury he got in the Super Rugby semi-final, he would have been a nice guy to see in that kind of hybrid role. But he does miss out. There's been other guys who've had kind of injury question marks about them, like Will Jordan. He's still coming back from injury. So we'll see what kind of form or fitness he is in, and maybe that means Morby gets a crack earlier, but we will see. Overall, I think I'm pretty happy with the squad. Average age is around 27.5, so it's a little bit younger than the likes of the Irish or the South Africans. It's a little bit older than some of the kind of younger squads out there, like the Italians and the French have gone with quite a young squad. But yeah, some big calls from Dave. I'm pretty happy with it overall. Oldest players are Taylor in the forwards and Bodie in the backs. There's a bunch of 23-year-olds. There's no real 21-year-old or 20-year-old absolute bolter, but there's 5 uncapped guys, which is a decent chunk. Expectations. We've got France at home in Christchurch, and remember, that's the French. If you've seen the squad for the French, it's very much a B team because of the top 14 final still hasn't been played. That season starts, like September or something? It's still going, man. Super Rugby's already had a whole season start and finish since then. The top 14 is still going. They got the final to go. So all those Toulouse players, the likes of Antoine Dupont and co., not going to be available. So it's a very young and inexperienced looking French squad. Whether they kind of bolster that up as the Nations Championship goes on remains uncertain. But for game 1 against the All Blacks, it's not going to be full strength French team. So we have to win that one. We've got the Italians in Wellington, who are definitely a team on the improve. You can't take them lightly, and Wellington is generally a graveyard for All Blacks teams for whatever reason. But there's going to be a bunch of Hurricanes, so they should be looking forward to playing there. Never lost to the Italians, so you got to win that one. I know the Italians just beat the English for the first time, so as I said, don't write them off, but you got to win that one. And then you got the Irish coming to town. They're also without a couple of key players injured. Their captain, Caelan Doris, is injured, going to miss some game time, so that's at Eden Park. You got to keep the Eden Park record. You have to go 3 from 3. You get a chance to blood some of the younger guys, especially as the guys tracking back from injury, are recovering, like Satiti. What kind of condition is he in after that big knock remains to be seen. But man, it's a very much Chiefs and Hurricanes-led squad with 11 players, I think, from each. There's a handful of Blues, handful of Crusaders, and just the one Highlander, plus a couple of guys coming back from overseas. But yeah, you guys let us know your thoughts. Where do you think we're looking strong? Where do you think we're looking potentially a bit weak? And yeah, who's your first choice number 10? Are you like me going with Ruben Love? It's hard to deny him after that final. But you guys take care, subscribe to the channel, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.